Hello, I'm Doug, and I'm here to get you familiarized with your new electronic keyboard and to teach you how to use it right away. Because of the latest state-of-the-art electronics, it's got all kinds of easy play features, special effects, automatic bass, chords, rhythms, synthesized sounds, and even more. And even if you've never played a musical instrument before, you're going to be amazed at what you and your electronic keyboard can do. I'm going to take you through this program and have you playing and enjoying music with your electronic keyboard in no time at all. And it's going to be as easy as ABC. Speaking of ABCs, included in this package is a set of ABC key stickers. They're self-adhesive stickers that you can apply to the melody section of your keyboard. If you're not too familiar with the names of the keys, these stickers will help identify them at a glance. So when you hear this tone, turn the cassette player off and apply the stickers to your keyboard as shown on page 5. In fact, each time I request you to do something, you'll hear the same tone indicating to turn off the cassette so you can do it. Keep in mind that any time you wish to stop the cassette, feel free to do so. When you're ready, turn the cassette player back on and continue. All set? Here's the tone. The next tone is optional, because if you haven't already done so, you may want to read your owner's manual in order to become as familiar as possible with all the features and controls of your keyboard. I can't possibly discuss every feature, every button, every control on your keyboard in the space of time on this tape, and as with anything new, it's always a good idea to check everything out. Okay, here's the tone, but if you don't want to stop the cassette at this point, just let it keep running. Look at the bottom of page 5. See the 5 notes C, D, E, F, and G? They have their letter names right inside the notes. These are notes that name themselves. If you have ABC key stickers on the keys, all you have to do is match the letter inside each note with the letter on the keys. Play those 5 notes just like this. Now you try it. Okay, play them again. But this time, don't play the D key. And hold the G key a little longer, like this. Try it once again. This time I'll say the letters, and you look at the keys and play along. Just follow me. Here we go. C, E, F, G, and hold it. C, E, F, G. That's the first part of When the Saints Go Marching In. You'll find that on the bottom of page 6. There are some more parts of well-known melodies on page 6. Try them. Wasn't that easy? There are even more melodies for you to play on pages 7, 8, and 9. See if you can fill in the correct letter names and then play them. You're ready for the next step to playing music. Melodies themselves are nice to play, but you might enjoy them a lot more with some accompaniment added. Chords are an important addition to the melody. They complement or embellish it to give it mood and feeling. Listen to this next example as I play Skater's Waltz. First, the melody only. Then, I'll add the chords. Chords make a difference, don't they? On page 10 of Getting Started, you'll see some words at the top, printed in darker ink. Let me explain and demonstrate some of those terms to you. The word chord is explained as 3 or more tones that sound pleasant when played at the same time. The first type of chord you'll use is a major chord. You'll learn a few other types later on. Here's an example of a major chord. The next 2 terms mentioned were rhythmic and continuous. Rhythmic means simply that the chord is played rhythmically, or is heard in conjunction with an automatic rhythm, like this. And continuous means with no rhythm, like this. Earlier, I said a chord is 3 tones that sound good when played together. This means you use 3 fingers to play each chord. I'll play the 3 tones one at a time, then together. Listen. If you have an easy play or one-finger chord feature, you need just one finger to play chords. I've just turned on the Easy Play feature on my keyboard. Now I'll play the same chord, but with just one finger. They both sound the same, don't they? On page 11, underneath the top keyboard illustration, you'll notice 2 boxes with letters inside. Those are chord symbols. They appear in easy-to-play music to tell you which chord to play and when to play it. With your one-finger chord feature, all you have to do is press the chord key with the same letter name as the chord symbol. Keep holding the chord key until the chord symbol in your music changes. Or, as discussed in your book, use chord memory. If you have this feature, you'll probably want to use it often. Just press a chord key once and let go. The chord will continue to sound until you press another chord key. I'll play the song on page 12 of Getting Started so you get the idea. Watch the music as I play. Now you try it. Turn your one-finger chord feature on. Remember to hold the white melody notes longer than the black ones. There are some important musical facts on pages 13 through 16 of Getting Started. You may want to read these over now before we continue, and affix the rest of your ABC key stickers as shown on page 15. Let's review some of the things you just read. For instance, beats and time values. If you look back on the previous pages, you'll see some notes that are black and some white. Well, in addition to telling you which key to play, the way a note looks also tells you how long to hold each key. At the top of page 16 are 4 different kinds of notes. The first is a quarter note, in which the note head, that's the round part, is all black. It also has a thin line connected to it called a stem. A quarter note is held for 1 beat, like this. 1. The next note is a half note. Its note head is white and has a stem connected to it. A half note is held for 2 beats. 1, 2. The third note is a dotted half note and looks just like the half note except there's a dot next to it. This gets 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. The last note shown is a whole note, and it has a white note head and no stem. A whole note is held for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. The illustration under More Musical Facts tells you about the staff and its components. All of these things together tell you how long to hold each note in a song. The 4/4 time signature shown indicates there are 4 beats in a measure, and a quarter note gets 1 beat. To explain this further, the top number indicates the number of beats in a measure. The bottom number is sort of like the bottom number of a fraction. If you saw a number 1 over a 4, you would say 1/4 or 1/4. In music, the 4 on the bottom means the quarter note receives 1 beat. Now I'll play and count the example shown in the middle of page 16, which is the same song I played before, Mary Ann, only this time the notes are all placed correctly on the staff, showing their actual time values and divided into measures of 4 beats each. Notice I played the tied F notes correctly and held them for a total of 6 beats. Pages 18 and 19 contain some easy and familiar songs for you to play. If you take a look at them, you'll notice numbers near most of the notes. These are finger numbers for your right hand as described on page 17. These finger numbers will make it easier for you to play smoothly and sound more professional. But actually, they're just suggestions. If you want to use different fingers, then feel free to do so. Why don't you give those next two songs a try and come back to the tape when you're ready? Hear those drums? Not bad for a keyboard, is it? You know, just a few years ago, you would have needed a very expensive drum machine or a real drummer to do the kind of things you can do now with your portable keyboard. Now, just by pushing a couple of buttons, you've got some really great rhythm sounds. In fact, let's try one right now. First, read the material on page 20 of Getting Started. Then come back to me. Let's start with a very simple rhythm. Here's an example of the swing rhythm as shown on page 20. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The song Amazing Grace on page 21 uses a waltz rhythm. A waltz always has 3 beats in a measure, so the time signature would be 3-4, a 3 over a 4. Listen to my keyboard's waltz rhythm while I count out a few measures. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now listen while I play the song so you get a feel for how the melody will fit in with the rhythm. Did you notice that I played the first note of the song without any accompaniment? That first note is called a pickup note. That first measure contains only 1 quarter note. Since there should be 3 beats to a measure in this song, that measure is incomplete. It's missing 2 beats. The 2 missing beats are always found at the end of the song, in the last measure. Look at the last measure of Amazing Grace. It contains 1 half note which gets 2 beats. These are the 2 missing beats from the first measure. The rhythm and chords will begin on the first beat of the first complete measure. The second measure contains 1 half note which gets 2 beats and 1 quarter note which gets 1 beat. It contains 3 beats total, so it is the first complete measure. This is explained in greater detail in the Exploring Automatic Features book. Try playing Amazing Grace yourself and then come back when you're ready. If your keyboard has a feature called Synchro Start, you'll be able to use it very easily on songs that have pickup notes. Before you play a song, set your rhythm and turn Synchro Start on. You won't hear any rhythm until you press the first chord key. The rhythm will begin at the same time as the chord. This way, you can play the pickup notes without any accompaniment and the rhythm and chords will begin together. Why don't you try using this feature with a song on page 23, Michael Row the Boat Ashore. Then, if you haven't already done so, read the material on pages 24 and 25. It's useful information on rests, sharps, flats, and a different kind of chord. Let's review a little about rests. A rest has a time value just like a musical note, even though it has no sound. A quarter rest has the same value as a quarter note. A half rest has the same time value as a half note, and so on. Most songs use rests. Each new element you learn about playing your electronic keyboard helps to add interest to your playing. Seventh chords offer a different sound than a major chord. Listen to the difference between a G major chord and a G seventh chord. Here's G major. Now, G seventh. Many keyboard models differ in how to play these types of chords, but most require that you use more than one key for them. You should read your owner's manual on how to form these chords. Why don't you play the next song, a polka? Pay attention to the various fingering suggestions and a snappy optional ending. Before you play the song on page 29, I'd like to point out that it has a repeat sign at the end of it. This musical symbol tells you to go back to the beginning of the song and play it again. It's played exactly the same the second time. Now, the song on page 31 has a repeat sign at the end of the first line. This means that when you get to the end of the first line, you go back to the beginning and play it over. Again, it's played exactly the same as the first time, only the words are different. Then continue playing the rest of the song to the end as indicated. Why don't you practice those two songs? When you're done, I'll explain double endings. The song Red River Valley on page 32 has a double ending. Notice at the bottom of the song, the measures with a number 1 and a number 2 under brackets just above the staff. Those are the first and second endings for the song. You'll also notice repeat signs at the beginning of the song and at the end of the first ending. This means that you play the song from the beginning to the repeat sign in the first ending. Then you go back to the beginning and play all the song again until you get to the number 1 ending. This time, skip it and play the number 2 ending. This ends this song. In some cases, the first and second endings are found within a song and more verses would follow. Look at your music while I play this example for you. Okay, you give it a try. Then play the song Somewhere My Love and try the optional endings shown on pages 35 and 36. You may have noticed that in the third measure in the last line of Somewhere My Love, the numbers 2 and 1 above the staff were followed by arrows. They indicate which finger to play the C key with, depending on whether you wish to play an upward or downward glissando, a slide from one key to another. I'll demonstrate glissandos 2 times. The first time, I'll end with an upward glissando using my second finger as indicated. The second time, I'll play a downward glissando using my thumb. Here's the first one. Now, the second time with a downward glissando. This next tone is optional. Stop the tape if you want to practice the glissandos. The bottom of page 36 discusses minor chords, indicated by a lowercase m in the box. These kinds of chords also require an extra key on most keyboards. Again, read your owner's manual to learn about this function. I'll demonstrate the difference in sound for you. First, I'll play an A major chord, indicated by a letter A in the box. Then I'll play an A minor chord, indicated by the A and a lowercase m. First, A major. Then A minor. Doesn't the minor chord sound sadder, more expressive than the major chord? Play the next song and then read about eighth notes on page 39. I'll discuss them when you come back. Now that you've read about eighth notes, I'll demonstrate them. I'll play a measure of quarter notes while counting the beats. Then, I'll play a measure of eighth notes, also counting the beats. Here are the quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. In a 4-beat measure, there can only be 4 quarter notes, as each one gets 1 beat. Since an eighth note is half as long as a quarter note, 8 eighth notes can be played in one measure like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. However, if you see a song in 3/4 time, there can only be a maximum of 3/4 notes in a measure, and therefore only a maximum of 6/8 notes. You now know many of the basics needed to play a song, the fundamentals of music, and a few extra tricks for fun. Why not turn off the tape and play the rest of the songs in this book? When you're ready, come on back, and I'll tell you about some of those buttons and switches on your keyboard. You'll be creating and using sounds in no time. Didn't that sound great? Did you recognize the voice or instrument sound I used? It was the piano voice on my electronic keyboard. All I did was press a button and I had a different instrument. Your keyboard has many different musical instrument voices that sound just like the real instruments in an orchestra or even a rock band. Some of those voices are shown on page 4 of the Creating Sounds book. In this book, I'll discuss many of the instrument sounds available and the most effective ways of using them. Remember, there are no right or wrong voices to use with any particular song. Some may just sound better to you than others. And some do not fit a song, like a voice with sustain used for a fast song with eighth notes, which leads me to the subject of how to choose a voice. First, simply think of the song. You may not be able to recognize an instrument when you hear it, but if you think of the song and try a few voices, you'll probably notice differences between them and develop a preference. In time, you'll gain quite a good ear for different sounds. Read the material on pages 5 through 8. When you come back, I'll demonstrate certain voice characteristics for you. Press any voice button on your keyboard and then press any key. The voice you hear can be categorized into at least one group of voice characteristics. These are shown on page 8. Listen while I play a voice from each of the groups. The first voice, the organ, has a continuous sound. When you press the key, the voice continues to sound until you let go. Listen again. The next voice I'll play, the piano, has a decay. The tone fades away or decays even when I'm still holding down the key. Listen. I didn't let go of the key at all. The sound just decayed by itself. The piano voice has another characteristic besides the decay. It is percussive. It takes a stronger action like plucking, hitting, or striking in order to sound. Another percussive voice is the guitar. Listen to the guitar voice. Notice the strong attack and the decay. Other voices have a slow attack. Just as the percussive group has a strong attack, these other instruments are powered by air and have a slow attack. Since the air takes a little more time to reach its full power, the time it takes for the voice to sound is a little slower than the percussive group. Listen to the organ voice again. The instruments in the slow attack group are also continuous. The air that powers them continues to blow until the key is no longer being held. Why don't you try all of your instrument voices if you haven't already? But this time, try to figure out which category they fall into. If you have a voice that is not named on page 8, you can probably hear for yourself which characteristics it has. When you're done, read the material on page 9. Then I'll demonstrate some special effects. Portamento is great for songs with an Hawaiian or outer space theme. Its effect is a sliding sound from one note to the next. The voice I used with this effect was the Hawaiian guitar voice because it had a light tropical sound, just like the song. Let me demonstrate what the song would sound like with another voice, the piano, still using portamento. Part of the song Theme from Star Trek can be found on page 44. It's a great song to use portamento with. You may want to try it later. Look at the top of the chart on page 9. The first two effects, vibrato and tremolo, are very similar in their definition. Vibrato is a rapid change in pitch. The sound is actually a change in notes. Tremolo is a rapid change in volume. The pitch stays exactly the same, but the volume gets softer, then louder, very quickly. I'll demonstrate the differences for you, but you'll need to really listen for it, because when they are actually used, the differences are sometimes difficult to notice. You'll hear a vibrato on voices in the string violin, woodwinds, reeds, and brass families. Listen while I press and hold a key using my string voice. You won't hear it at first, but as I hold it longer, you'll hear the vibrato come in. Now here's an example of tremolo. This effect, if you have it, was used a lot on organs. So I'll demonstrate it with the organ voice. The chorale effect is just a slower tremolo. Again, with the organ voice, it's very dramatic. That's the end of side A. Stop the cassette and turn it over.